One of the coolest things I ever did as a journalist was to cover a rally in Detroit, Michigan by a Christian preacher who was calling for the conversion of Michigan's substantial Muslim community to Christianity. I wrote a piece on it for Religion Dispatches, where I'm a senior correspondent, called Jesus Carpet Bomb My Heart. It was a very interesting experience. It was a tough experience. It was a strange experience. But since I had the opportunity to be in Detroit and to be in Michigan, I decided I would check out a little bit more of the Arab and Muslim communities of Detroit. And I made a decision to attend prayers at the Islamic Center of America, which I believe is one of the largest, if not the largest, mosques in America, and is a 12-er Shia mosque. At first, I asked several of my friends who were imams and chaplains what their opinion was, whether or not a Sunni could pray behind a Shia imam. I'm not a scholar, I'm not an expert in religious law, so I consulted them. But then I made a decision on my own, and I realized that if we are going to build an American Muslim community and a meaningful global Muslim community, then we have to learn from each other, and we have to be willing to work with each other and to be exposed to each other. So I went to this mosque, and I was a little bit apprehensive because I wondered what might happen when I pray with my hands folded. And then I realized that for many Shia Muslims, they attend Sunni mosques all across America, or mosques that are by default Sunni, and they have to be in the same position. And the congregational prayer, the Jama'ah, was a little bit different. It took me a little while to understand some of the differences and what was going on. But when we said salam and the prayer was over and we talked to each other and introduced each other, and learned about where we were from, and they were intrigued by what I was doing and why I was doing it, I realized that one of the most amazing things about Islam, one of the most phenomenal things about Islam, is that despite a lack of political unity, or maybe because of a lack of political unity, Islam as a religious and cultural tradition has an incredible degree of similarity and commonality. I can walk into a mosque of almost any Muslim denomination, almost anywhere in the world, and pretty much know what's happening from the get-go. That's an achievement for a global religion that is very rare, and it's a beautiful thing. But tragically, we see in Pakistan, where my family comes from, and other parts of the Muslim world, a rising level of sectarian intolerance, vitriol, and hatred that is absolutely disgusting and unacceptable. I heard this morning that 4 Shia Muslims were killed in Egypt by a mob. I don't know the details. I don't know exactly what happened, but I wouldn't be surprised. The casual level of intolerance, hatred, and all-out immorality that I hear among fellow Sunni Muslims is incredibly disappointing, disheartening, and frankly terrifying. There are hundreds of millions of Shia Muslims, at least, somewhere around the neighborhood of 150, 200, perhaps more million Muslims, who identify with the Shia strain of the faith. I'm not going to condescend. I don't believe in juvenile forms of unity. I don't believe in dumbing ourselves down. The differences between Sunni Muslims and Shia Muslims are real. They stem from very real, genuine, and legitimate disagreements over the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him's life, and what happened after his life. For someone who identifies with the majority stream of Islam to say, well, we're all just Muslim, is very similar to someone from the majority in the United States saying, well, we've transcended race. Because we all know what happens with conversations like that. It's not about get over it. It's not about there are no differences. It's that we have to, for once, learn how to deal with differences, to agree to disagree. And the rhetoric and conversation I have heard from many Muslim scholars on both sides of this difference is frankly disappointing and sad. It speaks to the decline of Muslim scholarship. It speaks to the decline of Muslim learning. And more importantly, it speaks to the decline of ambition. These differences are real. We have to deal with them. Just like Arabs and Kurds, Amazigh and Arabs, Christian and Muslim, different madhahib, different perspectives on religion, different levels of religiosity are all real. The Muslim world seems to be degenerating into a sectarian war. I hear all around me things said about Shia Muslims which are frankly absurd, offensive, and tiresome. They're not true. And even were they true, they have no place in a real society and a real community. This region of the world, and Muslim communities in general, will never get anywhere unless they can agree to disagree, respect each other's differences, and learn to work together where there is ample space to work together. We have so much in common, it is frankly amazing and inspiring. 1400 years later, the level of unity and similarity that exists in the spiritual practices of Islam and the emotional impulses of Islam is amazing. So why are we letting it die? I would like to see religious leaders, political leaders, and activists of all kinds take a stand against this kind of ignorance. Because the long-term consequences of it are clear. And for people for whom religion matters, this should be a warning. If you indulge in sectarian rhetoric, if you pursue sectarian warfare, if you allow conflicts to be reduced to either or, then eventually you will birth a generation of people who are simply fed up, and rightly so. They will want to have nothing to do with religion, no matter Sunni or Shia, if all they see coming out of religion is conflict, discord, violence, and brutality. Whether you were interested in the moral implications or simply the strategic implications, sectarian violence has no good end. It must stop. But in order to stop it, we must take action to stop it. And that means speaking out.